Sonic Project 06 has had many ups, downs, and all-arounds throughout its 7 years and counting of development, and with it being the 20th anniversary of the original game coming up in November, I want to celebrate the fan project's legacy so far by taking a deep dive into every nook and cranny of it. If it's your first time with a video like this, or as a refresher, we're going to begin with the more commonly known stuff about 06's fan remake, and as we progress, things are going to get more and more obscure as we travel down this massive glacier from the sky to its depths. Welcome to the P-06 Iceberg. A quick note before we get started. During development of this video, it was revealed that the Unity engine, the game engine Project 06 is made with, had a security vulnerability in it. While fixed now for the current version of P-06 by downloading the unityplayer.dll file from ChaosX's Silver Patch video and replacing the one in the P-06 folder with it, make sure to check View Hidden Items in the View tab of Windows Explorer if you don't see it. All versions of the fan project and adjacent projects to it are compromised if they were created prior to Unity 2019. Specifically for P-06, that means all the demos prior to Shadow Release version 1.0 have no fix for them. So footage of these versions were taken from my previous endeavors with the game, and I do not recommend attempting to play them yourself. That's at your own risk. As for the adjacent projects to P-06, I want to give a huge thank you to these individuals for having created content on them prior to the knowledge of this vulnerability. You can find links to their channels below the like button. Anywho, let's get started. Retail 06. The original game released by Sega and Sonic Team on November 14th, 2006, titled Sonic the Hedgehog. While presumably being a huge leap into the next generation of consoles with a bigger story, bigger stages, bigger character roster, and bigger everything really, it crashed and burned due to the extreme pressure to get the game out for the Blue Blur's 15th anniversary and had major development troubles behind the scenes. This game's commonly referred to as Sonic 06 to separate it from the 1991 original. What we were left with is a game with a lot of potential, enough of which got fans of the series working over the last 20 years since its release, leading us to the multiple 06-based projects we have today, including Project 06. For the purposes of this video and to minimize the amount of times I say 06, the original game will mostly be referred to as Retail. ChaosX, the lead developer of P-06. Having worked on projects in the past like Gistix's Sonic 06 PC in 2018 and his own Sonic Wars and Riders Overdrive fan games, our Argentinian programmer decided to take it upon himself to continue where 06 PC left off, and started rebuilding the game from scratch once again. Once Chaos released the first demo of Project 06 in 2019, the path was laid out to completely revive the game in the Unity engine. Unity Engine. This is the game engine used to develop the Project 06 framework. While the framework is built from the ground up, many assets from Retail were brought over to speed up the process exponentially, including things like textures, models, and animations. Since the beginning of development, though, these have been enhanced with upscaling and manual tweaks, in addition to things like new animations for the characters and particle effects to jazz up certain abilities that really update the experience to the modern day. Sonic the Hedgehog, the fast blue guy that's kind of responsible for all the events that led up to this point. If you don't know who Sonic is, how are you here? Silver the Hedgehog, the psychokinetic hedgehog from the future added to the roster of characters in Retail. While having some of the worst gameplay in that game, Project 06 revamps him to be faster, smoother, and way more powerful. What I'm saying is he's pretty fun now. Shadow the Hedgehog. Introduced in Sonic Adventure 2, this chaos-attuned hedgehog went from being a mirror of our main character to becoming one of the most complex in the series, with his characterization in Retail being widely regarded as one of the few good things that game did. In Project 06, his combat-focused gameplay is given even more emphasis, especially with those particle effects, impact frames, and overall buffs to his moves. Sonic fan games. While having a solid presence on the internet BP, that's before P-06, the Sonic fan community really exploded over the last 6 to 7 years, especially with the 5-year drought of official games between Forces and Frontiers. Project 06 specifically sparked an interest in not only having the word project in your fan game's name, but also creating fan remakes and mods of official games to bring them up to modern standards and fix the common criticisms the original releases had. Now, slowly but surely, the Dark Age is being mended. Last release. The next and very appropriately titled release of Project 06, which at the time of this video is confirmed to be adding a bunch of new content like the bosses, last story, very hard stages, and Team Attack Amigo DLC, in addition to updating the existing content already in the Silver release. And while we don't really know the full extent of what's coming to the game or when it's releasing, I have no doubt it's gonna be awesome. SonicPox. An accomplished animator in his own right, SonicPox has worked on, and is hopefully continuing to work on, P-06, assisting Chaos in creating animations for both the new in-game cutscenes and in gameplay. In-game cutscenes. Project 06 adds a few new cutscenes at the start and during some of its stages, mostly using cut dialogue from the heaps retail had. These are super cool and one of the highlights of the game, and hopefully there are more in the last release, as long as we can skip them. Beats. The main developer assisting Chaos on Project 06, having been around since its early days, helping out with model rigging, new UI, collision edits, enhancing the game's textures, and more. But it's not just P-06. The Bosnian has created and contributed to some pretty popular mods for other Sonic games as well. Through his many years working with the Unity engine, there's no doubt that when Beats is a main factor in a project, you know it's going to be high quality. Sonic's Gems. One of the main highlights of retail, these magical rocks Sonic had purchased from the store over the course of his adventure would grant him a special ability based on which one was equipped, ranging from a burst of speed to breaking everything. On top of that, thanks to a typo in the code, Sonic's action gauge, the magic system that governs more powerful abilities both in retail and in P-06, never decreases. P-06 fixes this typo, along with adding the level up system for the gems only mentioned in retail's manual, where the more energy cores that are collected from defeating enemies while the gem is equipped, the stronger it'll get. While more balanced in the fan project, it doesn't change how much fun they are. My favorite power-ups in the series. Also, they're hidden around Sonic stages instead of only being stuffed in a shop, which is pretty dope. Retail upgrades in the base moveset. While some of the upgrades in Project 06 were placed out into the stages since the game doesn't have a shop, some of them were given to the character's movesets inherently. For Sonic, he begins with the Bounce Bracelet, Light Chip, and Anti-Gravity. Shadow has the Air Chip and Memory Shards blue, red, and black for each level of Chaos boost, and Silver has the Heart of Wind, Shock Bracelet, Power Bracelet, and Single Aired Extreme, whatever the hell that means. Additionally, Sonic had an unused bracelet for the Homing Smash, but in retail it was scrapped and the ability was moved to the White Gem. It looks cool though, so Chaos added it back onto his model in P-06 despite not having any functionality. Thanks to the Barracuda for this one. Jay's Reviews.
I'm pretty sure I found out about P-06 very early on. Definitely played one of the early demos. I don't remember which demo I played first. I know I was playing it as early as 2019, maybe 2018, but I was always really impressed with it. It was the Sonic release in 2020 where I became super invested in playing the game all the time, but I was definitely trying out every single demo before then. P-06 is my favorite Sonic game, full stop. It's the one where there's just 30 stages of really consistent high-speed action, and there's nothing about it that I find to be a drag or boring or anything about it I really don't like. I just think it has the time and the resources to be a really fine-tuned and fun game. Also having the production values to look really sick as well. I'm very excited for the project's future. I think when it comes out, it'll be one of the most significant moments in fan development history, as it isn't just making a game people like even better or an under-realized game even better. It's turning gaming's most infamous game, or one of them, into this super fun, amazing game. And I think that is a moment that will leave quite an impact on not just Sonic, but the gaming community in general. And I'm just also looking forward to just playing more of it and seeing what improvements are added to the experience.
Victory Box 12.
I had known about P-06 for a long time, even before it had that name, but the first demo that I played proper was the Shadow release in 2021, which ended up impressing me so much that I had to make a video on it. One that would randomly go viral and change my life forever. Seeing a finished version of Sonic 06 was something that I dreamed about and never really thought would happen, so when I laid my hands on this and saw just how many things were improved, I could feel the light turn on. It was a legitimate possibility now, a sentiment that only escalated with every new demo. The polish in visuals, movement, chaining enemies as Shadow and Flame Core, there's nothing like it. And when I get to hear Solaris Phase 2 paired with killer gameplay, a little part of me will be more complete.
Some call me Johnny.
Hey, Stelmo, this is the video that you asked for, and I'll try and get all the points across in a coherent fashion if possible. Okay, well, here we go. So I don't remember when I first discovered Project 06. I looked back at some of my oldest Spotlight videos covering the game's initial release. So this dates back to 6.5, 7 years ago. That was when I was first made aware of it, because I believe my community pointed me in the direction of it when I was doing it was either the Sonic Amateur Gaming Expo of that year or the Sonic Hacking Contest, because those things I like to do. I like to do showcase streams involving one of those two things. And Project 06, when that was originally making the rounds, this was already at an era where people were already tinkering with 06, the base game, usually via modifications or mods of the original Xbox 360, PS3 game. And your results may vary on that, but people have been trying to make, chicken salad out of chicken shit, so to speak, for several years now. So Project 06 comes along, and at first, originally, I was just going, I was going to play and see what was going on. It's like, let's see, what do we have in store for this one? And originally, it didn't seem like much, because I recall, like, the first ever thing I got to experience with Project 06 was a level demonstration of Crisis City, Sonic's version of Crisis City. And at a glance, it didn't seem anything special. It just looked like it was just Crisis City from 06. And then I was made aware that the game was not running off of its original engine. Everything wholesale that we were seeing was ported to, I believe it was either Unreal or a similar like engine. And then when I learned that, that was an eye-opener, because what I was playing was essentially a recreation of the original game, but it was almost one-to-one. Like, there are a couple of differences here and there, but negligible in the grand scheme of things. The point is, the dev managed to port everything essentially over from the original game to this engine that they can eventually just do whatever the hell they wanted with it. And once I learned that, that was like, oh shit, dude, like, that's amazing. Like, if you can do that, what can you do later down the road? So Project 06 then just immediately became like the Sonic 06 modification, the Sonic 06 project that I wanted to follow for some time, because, as a avid Metroid fan, I was reminded of another Metroid 2 remake that was essentially a built from the ground up recreation of the second game. Now, it's kind of apples and oranges for the comparison here. My point is, though, when you really are passionate about a project that you want to do for a game that is pretty notorious among the community. Like, everyone knows, or everyone can agree, that 06 was like one of the lowest points of the franchise that almost killed the damn Hedgehog for maybe, I think, the second time in the span of 2 years, because Shadow the Hedgehog predates that by a year. But knowing what a dedicated dev or developers can do with a game that is notoriously uncooked, but put it in a new engine, give it new life and potential, made me very excited at the notion of, this may take a while, but eventually this may end up being one of the best Sonic experiences he's ever had in a three-dimensional space. And sure enough, throughout the last several years, through updates and just reworks, feedback, I've had the pleasure of seeing this project grow into what is honestly becoming, and I genuinely mean when I say this, one of the best 3D Sonic games I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. And even though by holiday of next year, we will be approaching 20 years since the original game came out, it's cool to think that people, Sonic fans, young and old, will have a chance, like fan game or otherwise, get to experience the Sonic Adventure 3 that 06 originally was supposed to be. And that to me is the exciting / endearing aspect of it, like looking into it. Because like as an old time Sonic fan, I can say that, I think, right? I'm looking forward to just seeing a version of a game that I have known for a long time at this point just reach its full potential. Now, obviously, it's under perspective in the eyes of a single dev, and we all have our interpretations of what makes a good Sonic game and all that, right? But knowing how this project has been progressing, seeing that with my own eyes, experiencing that with my own hands and that sort of shit, I'm just excited at the idea of what this project will be to its full completion when all said and done. All 3 campaigns, from my knowledge, are complete, and nothing can be done about the story. Nothing can be done about like the infrastructure that ties all these elements together, because that would require a humongous work, or you might as well just make a new game at that point, But for what we have here already has already made me awfully excited at the idea that we have a definitive Sonic 06 experience. And it's not just us, but, again, to re-mention it, the game is turning 20 next year. And in the last 20 years, we've had a new generation of Sonic fans enter the fray. And while I'm sure anyone that gets a modicum of interest in the series will eventually learn of like the low points of the series, Sonic 06 very much included with that. Playing Sonic 06 as originally intended is slowly becoming not the most viable way to experiencing it. And because of its bottom of the barrel reputation, Sega has long since wrote it off. Like, they want nothing to do with it. They'll pay respects to it. They'll mention it in future games. But for the original game itself, I think they'd rather just leave it and forget it. Let the fans do whatever they want with it, which is something I always really respected Sega / Sonic Team for, because they are well aware of the modding community, the hacking community, the fan game community. And they honestly do not give a shit and encourage folks to just try and make something out of anything based on their previous endeavors. And I think 06 is probably the most infamous example in that regard. What's the harm in letting fans try and do something with it? And while I think it's important for perspective and history and context that new Sonic fans should experience like the original incarnations of whatever game they're playing modifications of. I also like to think that, new Sonic fans of a generation are going to experience something that honestly should have been a thing, should have been the way it was in its original inception. And they have the benefit, the pleasure, the luck to be able to experience what is essentially going to be Sonic Adventure 3. And I know that that's like setting up a high bar. I'm aware of that, but it's like, I do have a lot of faith in this project. I have been immensely enjoying every nook and cranny of my experiences with this every time I give it a look back. I think I did like 2 or 3 separate spotlights on the project itself because I've just been having a ball seeing its progress, seeing its evolution into something that I would have never thought in my 20 years of knowing this game would ever get to that point. So personally speaking, the thing that I'm looking forward to the most in regards to Project 06 is, well, one, I can't wait for the full release to actually be here. Like that, this is it. There's no more updates. This is everything else that we wanted to work on it. Here it is. Have fun, have a ball. Merry Christmas or some other shit like that, right? And I'm hoping it is just something that Sonic fans of all ages, old, young, you're a 2D fan, you're a 3D fan, I'm hoping it's something that everyone can just find some level of enjoyment of. And I think it's a safe bet that people will. But personally speaking, I'm hoping that beyond Project 06, the dev of the game, I believe it's ChaosX, finds a new passion to work on, like beyond Sonic 06. Maybe they start making their own independent creations using their experiences with Project 06 as the backbone of whatever independent endeavor they want to chase, or maybe they tackle another Sonic game and what have you. That it's ultimately up to them. But I'm hoping that no matter what, like no matter the people's reception to this, no matter the experiences, no matter good or bad, I'm hoping this leads to just great things along the road for the dev, because they put a lot of fucking blood, sweat, and tears in this. That is evident. You can look at the work done and you can see that you don't do this on a whim. You don't do this because you just feel like it. You do this because you intimately, you passionately believe in what you were creating here, not just for yourself, but just so that Sonic fans can have something decent to eat. Like between waiting for major Sonic releases in a day and age where you're not sure if the next game is going to be good or average or bad. It's just good to know that despite the lengthy dev cycle, despite all the time it takes to make something like this, at the end of the day, it's going to be a delicious meal. And take it from me, as someone that has been playing Project 06 for several years now during its development, I think people got something to really look forward to with this one. So if you haven't already, please, I encourage you, I implore you, play for yourself.
So I'm sitting here and I just finished up editing Jay's, Bix, and Johnny's part of the Iceberg video. And, just because anniversary of 5 years of streaming and almost 3 years of doing YouTube is coming close, I wanted to quickly say thank you guys, seriously, for everything, for all the support, whether it's doing the free stuff, whether it's gifting subs to subathons, whether it's just telling your friends about the content and all that. Like, it's so hard to describe what it's like to be in the position that I'm in right now. And even if I'm not at the level of success that I want to be at, it's just truly special to be where I am and getting to make a video like this. Because I put a lot of, as Johnny said for P-06, as much as Chaos and everyone has put their blood, sweat, and tears into Project 06, I really try to do my best and miss the mark a lot to put as much effort as I can into what I do. And I know that people, sorry, I'm joking up. And I know that people don't agree with me all the time on the things that I say about this series, but the discourse, the things I've learned, the things I've gotten to experience, like, you think speedrunning the game at GDQ was going to be the highlight of the career, that it just continues to amaze me. What just comes next? What's the next thing that happens? What's the next amazing thing that goes on? So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Seriously, like, just thank you for whether you just click on the video, watch the first 2 minutes, like giving any time to anything that I do with the Mount Everest of creators that are on this platform is just, it's truly special. It's truly special. Anyway, enough sappy stuff. Let's get back to the video. Silver's upgrades. While all of the hogs begin the game with their retail upgrades, other than Sonic's gems, Project 06 adds 2 new, pretty easily missable upgrades to Silver to make him even more fun to play as. First is the big game changer, the Lotus of Resilience, granting him the full use of the teleport dash, being usable as long as the action gauge allows rather than just stopping after a certain point, and the spin jump badnik bounce combo. Thank God. This one's found after solving a puzzle in Dusty Desert just before the ballroom. The second one, the Flame of Control, strengthens the projectiles he throws with his psychokinesis, and allows him to charge a psychic knife taken from the Sonic Generation boss fight. Both of them are absolutely worth getting, and with how hidden they are, they almost fit the Playground Rumor vibes, especially with how many folks miss them during their playthroughs. You're a sneaky man, Chaos, and I love this design. S-rank rewards. The 3 main hedgehogs are able to obtain new upgrades exclusive to P-06 by achieving an S rank in each of their respective stories. Sonic gets the Rainbow Gem, an unused item allowing him to transform into a weaker version of Super Sonic during gameplay. The Memory Shard Light for Shadow, giving him access to the once cutscene exclusive Uninhibited mode, working as a pseudo super form. And finally, the Sigil of Awakening for Silver, giving him access to ESP mode, again, a pseudo super form. Each ability is super fun to use, especially for speedrunning, and definitely worth grinding out those S ranks for. Even the fixed 06 has glitches. Also appearing as some derivation of 06 is still gonna 06, this is a sentiment shared among some internet users that no matter how much one tries, creating a game based on retail to a functional state devoid of glitches is impossible. And I hate to break it to you, but Project 06 is a video game, and it's gonna have glitches, as all video games do. This fan game has been put under such a scrutinous and unfair lens considering what it's remaking when it comes to bugs and glitches, because it's easy to poke fun at, probably? And while I can't speak for the dev team, and am not speaking for the dev team, I can say from my perspective that this sentiment seems to have resulted in some really cool things being omitted because they look too glitchy. Overall hurting the freedom the game gives its players while trying to appease folks that are never going to be pleased no matter what P-06 does. The amount of work that's been done on P-06 by a small handful of people over the course of the last 7 years is nothing short of awe-inspiring. And to put the game down in this way when the very first screen on boot up acknowledges that the game is, in fact, still in its demo stages and may contain bugs is needlessly critical. My hope moving forward is that we do continue to critique P-06. It's not a perfect game, it'll never be a perfect game, and good ideas can come from anywhere, but relax a bit on giving the game shit for a few bugs that crop up in an otherwise very polished experience. It's good to acknowledge when oddities arise in the game so the dev team can decide whether or not it's a bug or they want to implement it into the game as a feature, but there's no reason to make fun of it in this way. It's not 2006 anymore. Thanks to Full Stop Chris for allowing me to hop on my soapbox for a bit on this. Project TGS. While not P-06, ChaosX used its framework to create Project TGS, a faithful recreation of the 2005 Tokyo Game Show demo of retail from all the available footage we have of it. From the wonky animations to silly gameplay and even an option to change the time of day, it's all here, and you can download it for yourself off Chaos's YouTube channel. Look at them hot dog shoes. Moon blown up. Dislike how after Sonic Adventure 2, the consequences of Eggman blowing up half the moon are completely nullified as the games never address it and it looks normal in every subsequent Sonic game? Well, P-06 has got you covered because in certain stages you can see that the half moon is still chilling in the sky. If it weren't that way, I'd be pissed off. And thanks to Dono Beeson for this one. I apologize for my lisp. Chaos Zero, a small Easter egg in Shadow's Kingdom Valley. If you take the hover car through the sewer system in the second section of the stage and wait by one of the grates, Chaos Zero will show up to give Shadow a quick hello. Glad we saw him before he got any Chaos Emeralds. Stelmo98. Considered by some to be the P-06 content guy of YouTube, I've been playing the game since its first demo in 2019 once I saw that the gems were available in it. They're my favorite Sonic power-ups, of course, so they had strong pull. This is when I was mostly out of my Sonic phase and was casually following the series as I had different interests during college. I had barely started streaming at the beginning of 2021 when, in September of that year, I decided to take a look at the Shadow release when Chaos dropped it, on his birthday no less. It felt like just another stream to me, but before I stopped playing, I found another secret, Shadow's Memory Shard Light. After finding it and showcasing it on stream, I decided to clip that portion of the video and put it on my YouTube channel, which at the time only had Stardew Valley and Skyrim content on it. Still have yet to beat the main quest of that game. Overnight, that video hit 1,000 views, and to this day, that's still the best feeling I had ever gotten over the amount of views on a YouTube video. I also remember putting it on my Snapchat story when it happened, but I didn't keep the picture, which sucks because now in hindsight, it would have been awesome to keep. Obviously, Obviously, I think P-06 is a fantastic game, and definitely worth playing if you like 3D Sonic. Thanks to it, I've made so many new friends, including being pretty tight with the developers, gotten some amazing opportunities, and jump-started the journey of creating a successful business that I can call my own. Still working on that successful part, though I have high standards for myself, and for that, I'll forever be grateful to Project 06 and its dev team. Because I talk about the game basically every day and have had many conversations of what I like, don't like, and would like to see, I have very high hopes for the last release. Tripling the gameplay content from what we know is confirmed is already crazy, but then there's also everything that isn't confirmed that'll be a surprise to everyone when it eventually rolls around. What the dormant speedrunner in me has the highest hopes for is the changes to the character abilities and movesets. There are some I'm really looking forward to, like Shadow being able to activate Chaos Boost without stopping, but also ones I'm more cautious of, like the spin dash being nerfed to where you have to charge it up a bit to get to full speed. A nerf I do like in theory, but it'll definitely take some getting used to in practice. I have no doubt it'll still play super well though, and I'll always be thankful for the decision I made that day back in 2021. Pre-release stages recreated. Within the second section of the test stage lies a warp mirror that, when interacted with, sends you to an unused menu. After selecting your hog, you'll be warped to their variant of Kingdom Valley that was meant for the 2006 Tokyo Game Show. Sonic and Silver go through their respective first sections of the stage, and they're pretty much the same as their full counterparts. Shadow, though, gets to traverse his section 3 the same way that Sonic does instead of in reverse like normal, getting to perform his own version of Castle Skip and having 3 random rings past the goal. Yeah, this is an unused layout, alright. Additionally, there's another warp mirror that sends you to Silver's E3, rest in peace, Crisis City, complete with the daytime aesthetic, broken English, and Eggman's robots appearing in the future. End of the world demo. For a special surprise after showcasing the fan project at Summer Games Done Quick 2024, a speedrunning charity event, ChaosX made a demo of Omega's, Amy's, and Shadow's sections of the final stage of the game, End of the World. This showcased a small taste of what's to come in the last release, and even now things are drastically different than they are here. Maybe we can see an update soon, Chaos? Maybe? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, please, please? Knights of Chronos. In the most recent release of P-06, the game window in the top left reads the executable as Sonic the Hedgehog Knights of Chronos, the title that, at the time, and maybe still now, I don't know, ChaosX wanted to change the name of the project to, and a reference to one of Retail's achievements. While at this point the game's way too well recognized as P-06 to get a name change in my opinion, it still adds a nice bit of flavor if it ends up being official. Thanks to Fallen Cuna for this. Tropical Jungle Whitewater. During the Silver Patch updates happening in late 2023, some versions had an issue where the water would appear, milky white in Silver's Tropical Jungle. As the hotfixes came out for the update, some other areas were the unfortunate victims of this bug until it all got sorted out in the most current version. Thanks for the image, Kariru. I really didn't need to imagine that. Oh my god, what were the scientists doing in Aquatic Base? Crisis City Buggy. In Retail, the opening section of Shadow's Crisis City starts you out in the buggy, and it was this way in P-06 as well in the first version of the Shadow release. However, due to Shadow being much better to control in the fan game and the vehicle sucking, the buggy was removed, forcing the faker to hoof it on foot. With the P-06 treatment though, it's actually one of his most fun sections, rolling around at the speed of slower than Sonic. Sorry, bud. Roof launches. In the Mach Speed section of Sonic's Wave Ocean, the Blue Hog is able to badnik bounce off of the enemies to gain enough height to reach the huts and skyrocket off of them into the air so high he reaches the egg carrier. But unfortunately, this trick was removed in all versions beyond the Shadow release due to a change stopping Mach Speed Sonic from launching off of random objects. Unnecessary one, considering the mechanic was more of a hindrance in other stages, but being able to skip the automation was the really cool part. As in speedrunning Sonic games, we basically try to find every way possible to skip the automation, as what we do tends to be faster. Maybe some other thing could be implemented, like strategically jumping across islands in the ocean in order to skip the chain jumps. I think that'd be pretty cool. Murray the Human. A modder for Project 06 that's one of the core reasons why the modding scene is even alive right now for the game before last release. He's actually the one that came up with the idea for the Iceberg, so I wanted to give him his own part here. Thanks, Murray. Take it away.
You know what I really like? Level design. You know what levels I thought were pretty cool but stuck in a bad game? 06's levels. So I suppose it was only kismet that I'd eventually look up, hey, has anyone ported these levels to SA2? Maybe SA1? But that isn't what I found on that January 14th, 2022. No. What I discovered instead was Sonic Adventure 3. What? And if the stars couldn't align any more perfectly, it was in the Unity engine. I'd used the Unity engine before. I could make stages for this. I could make mods that changed the game. I could wait a couple of years until the modding community actually started. And then like a whole other year just for me to find out that it existed. I started small. Just a little port of a Doom map. Something to learn the ropes. Then, a Mario Party minigame remake that no one asked for. And a Bowser boss fight. Then later I ran into Soapy Hands and we made Bullet Station together. And then later, I worked with Retro to make Super Shadow. And hardest of all, I had to record this voiceover. To me, P-06 represents a journey of self-improvement. And I'm really excited to see what happens next. Last release is inevitably going to break a whole lot of my mods, so when that comes out, I'm going to be dreading it as much as I am anticipating it. If I had to pick something I'm most excited to see in the last release, it's going to be how Chaos handles some of those bosses. I've been pondering how you'd fix some of those bosses for longer than P-06 has been in development. So Chaos, no pressure.
Test stage music. While the songs featured in Project 06's test stage have been burned into my brain at this point, I'm sure you've noticed that it's not Sonic music. Chaos is also a massive fan of Dragon Ball, and decided to throw a few songs from DBZ Guided into the mix, with Grand Battle being the main theme of the first section, a skirmish for section 2, and Search for Destron Gas being in section 3. That's hard, I've never heard of that word before. Oh, and in the Silver Patches, Chaos added a 4th section to the test stage, but I think you might recognize this music more. Day-night cycle. You know how I mentioned that the Tokyo Game Show demo from 2005 had a day-night cycle that was recreated for Project TGS? Well, when the Shadow release was new, a big request from players was to include it in P-06 in every stage of the game. While I think that wouldn't really work as you move through the stages too quickly, so you either wouldn't notice it or the timescale would have to be so sped up it would look silly, there is an argument for having different variations of the stage being set at different times, like Silver's Crisis City taking place at night. Maybe it could be an option for the very hard stages in Team Attack Amigo. The 2018 demo. As Johnny mentioned, prior to the first public demo of Project 06, there was another project porting retail to the Unity engine led by users MeFireSue and Gistix, which had a small demo of Sonic's Crisis City shown off at the 2018 Sonic Amateur Games Expo, or SAGE for short, but not that SAGE. While a separate entity, P06 wouldn't exist without it, as it brought Chaos into the greater 06 fold. You can even still go to the Sonic Fan Games HQ website and check it out, though I wouldn't recommend downloading it since the version of Unity it uses has a security vulnerability with no fix. Let's take a look at the credits. Hey, there's our boy. Silver's green aura. In previous versions of the fan game, Silver's psychokinesis aura was a much greener color than the teal it is now. This is probably because Chaos created Demo 1 of P06, which featured Silver in Sonic's Kingdom Valley prior to having played the original game, and thus an error due to not having first-hand experience with it. I thought it was pretty cool, as the three main hogs would have blue, red, and green as their primary accent colors, but it was eventually changed over to the teal in P06 as well. Red Gem OST glitch. In Demo 3 of P06, otherwise known as the Sonic release, there is a glitch where if you use the red gem in a stage, the slowed down music and the extra effects would persist through the menu and into other stages. If you want to listen to most of the tunes in this format, you can find a rendition of all the stages on YouTube by user Saturn Overdrive, link below the like button of course. It works surprisingly well, and thanks to Cosmic Angel for this point. Kingdom Valley Spring. In Demo 2 of P06, there was a spring at the end of Sonic's Kingdom Valley that would launch you toward an unused cave area, sending him to the Mach Speed section without having to watch the Silver cutscene. This was a very nice addition, and I'd love to see it come back, though I give Silver brownie points for trying to protect me, even though I'm Super Sonic. I can't believe it. Another Easter egg hidden in Shadow's Kingdom Valley right after Chaos Zero. Before you grab the eagle heading into the next section, take a left turn toward the tower. Using some of Shadow's more advanced techniques, you can enter the tower and inside you'll spawn a ton of enemy waves, which when defeated will open a cage housing a switch. And that spawns a shit ton of rings when activated.
I can't believe it.
That S rank is mine. Blaze's Fireclaw. When the updates to the Silver release were rolling out, one of the critiques that was addressed was Blaze's Fireclaw. In the initial build, activating the move required full commitment as it couldn't be broken out of until you hit something. However, one of the changes made to it was decreasing its overall speed to make it more controllable, and it felt awful. Thankfully, a compromise was made in the most recent version where holding the control stick forward would increase the Fireclaw's speed back to its initial value, as well as the move automatically deactivating after a second. A much welcome change that makes Blaze even more fun to play as than she already was. The origin of Silver's upgrades. The Greyhog's upgrades added into P-06 are not only fun to play with, but also have some interesting lore behind them. They aren't just little trinkets you're meant to find and mess around with, but rather metaphorical representations of his journey throughout the story. Looking at the manual for the game, we can find little text blurbs for the Lotus and the Flame, with the following statements being my interpretation of these ideas. The Lotus represents Silver's new admiration for the past, realizing that there's more than meets the eye to the situation he's found himself in, opening his mind and, after meeting new friends, finding new ways to use his abilities. The Flame represents Silver's heightened determination after finding out he's been duped, and is now more focused than ever to right the wrongs of the past, both of the world and his own actions. As for the Sigil, to not spoil the upgrade, nothing's included in the manual for it, but a while ago Chaos sent me a YouTube comment he feels perfectly encapsulates what he was trying to go for with it. And of course, the Sigil harkens back to several things. The way Silver's power has always been tied to rune-like symbols, it coalesces into the form of a sun because it came from Iblis's flame, but ultimately, it represents how Silver has finally achieved the power to destroy the veil of darkness over his world once and for all. He's awakened his true potential, which is how he gets his ESP powers in canon. Shout out to DLXX, seems you hit the nail on the head. Blitz Sonic Test Stage. Nowadays, the test stage in P-06 is iconic in its own right, but its first section actually isn't the one used in retail. This area is from the Blitz Sonic engine, a throwback to Chaos's very early days of getting into game development. Since the engine's quite old, it's not really used anymore, but an awesome nod to the legacy of Sonic fan games. The camera change in Kingdom Valley's Mach Speed section. In the first version of the Shadow release, Chaos wanted to experiment with the camera angles in the Mach Speed section of Kingdom Valley. Here, when Sonic would run on the waterfalls, the camera flipped 90 degrees to make it appear he was running on the floor. It was considered too jarring though, so the camera change was reverted back to what it is currently. Thanks, Gordon, for reminding me of this. Original gem locations. Since the first two demos of P-06 didn't include every stage from Sonic's story, but did have all the gems, their locations were condensed into the playable stages in each of those releases. In Demo 1, the green gem was in the same location it's in now, but was grouped with the yellow gem, purple gem, and red gem, with the sky, white, blue, and of course rainbow gem being in Kingdom Valley. For Demo 2, the sky and purple gem were moved to Radical Train, and the blue and red gem were put in Flame Core, with the blue gem actually being in the red gem's eventual final location. It's too bad it didn't stay this way because of how long it takes to grab the blue gem in its current location, but I understand with how powerful it is. Metal Sonic / Demo version 1.0. In the first version of P-06, which unfortunately is no longer available, and even if it were, it wouldn't be safe to play because of the security risk, trying to select Dusty Desert would actually take you to a very early version of the test stage. And, thanks to a little shenanigans done by Gordon Ramsay, it turns out that all the characters are actually playable in this version of the game, and we were able to switch out to them to see what they were like in their original incarnations. It's very cool seeing how far these guys have come, with most of them just having a smaller set of their current abilities other than Amy actually having invisibility. But curiously, it seems there was also a Metal Sonic character planned. He had some unique animations and sounds, along with a special move that used the action gauge to dash forward, but he's still very much unfinished here. Metal Sonic was actually planned to be in the original game as well, but he was scrapped there too. Sucks that he was tossed in the bin twice in a row for official implementation, but Beats did create a character mod that allows you to play as Metal Sonic in Project 06, complete with his black shield and everything. Maybe official integration is one of those unconfirmed things for the last release. Thanks to Game Ninja 105 for this tidbit. Old E3 HUD icons. When using the E3 version of the heads-up display in Demos 1 and 2, each character would actually have their own life icon done in a similar style to it, rather than using the retail ones. While neat, Chaos ended up removing the unique icons and just reshading the Sonic one for Shadow and Silver story, as he wasn't the original creator of them. There is one that stayed in, however, for Super Sonic, because it was created by Beats, who's on the dev team. Looks pretty slick, brother. Gistix's 06 PC. Chaos may have joined the 06 remake crew with the 2018 stage demo of Crisis City, but Gistix had been leading a team recreating the game a year prior, with a demo of Kingdom Valley releasing to the public. It was this small spark that led to the fan project we know and love today. Gistix even posted a video showcasing multiplayer in this demo, but unfortunately he deleted his channel, so you can't access it anymore. What a shame, would have been a cool piece of history. P-06 Android port. Back when the Shadow release was new in 2021, Beats created a version of it for Android devices. Though there were more stages in the game at the time, this one only contained Sonic's Wave Ocean, Dusty Desert, and White Acropolis. Sitting mostly dormant since then as efforts are being put toward the next PC release of P-06 and other projects Beats has been working on, interest in it has resurfaced as a third party by the name of Lowfriend is attempting to port the most current version to phones themselves. And as far as I know, is in no way affiliated with Beats or anyone else on the dev team. Because of that, our modding legend is making a return to his Android port, developing it for the last release. As of right now, it'll release when the PC version does, so see ya in 10 years. Shadow TSR car. In the Silver release, version 1.0, the test stage had a fun Easter egg, Shadow's car from Team Sonic Racing. It's probably been driven more around these gray blocks than the entire player base's game time of the flop that title was. However, it was removed from the test stage in future updates to P-06. Yes, Shadow can't go fast like whoa anymore. P-06 is cancelled. At the beginning of 2022, disaster struck as ChaosX's computer started acting up, giving him random freezes, shutdowns, crashes, the whole 9 yards. Things were looking grim as the P-06 brick kept giving the lead dev so much trouble that he eventually went on hiatus. The scary part is, in an effort to keep things as tight-knit as possible, all of P-06 was on Chaos's computer with no backups, which means that if the PC died, the project did along with it. But of course, the story does have a happy ending. Thanks to the insane generosity of two people who go by the Twitter handles Mattias Goldberg and Dario Samo, I apologize if I mispronounced either of those, Chaos was able to set up a new PC and get P-06 onto it, continuing development and uncanceling the game. All thanks to a couple good-hearted strangers. Man, the Sonic community is great when it wants to be. Blaze's fire power-up. During the Silver release's development, the idea was played around with for Blaze to have a sort of Chaos boost super adjacent transformation like Shadow and Silver do. Chaos decided to show off this idea on Twitter well after the Silver release was out, where in Wave Ocean, which was also set at nighttime it seems, before being changed to the sunrise we know and love now, Blaze could fill up her action gauge much like Shadow. When full, she would do a huge fiery explosion, which caused her fire attacks to be supercharged for the duration of the meter. While really fucking cool, it was ultimately decided to scrap this idea as Blaze was a side character with not nearly as much screen time as the main hogs. Basically, the ability seemed like too much given her role in the story. Not all was lost though, as many of these elements were repurposed into the now really awesome ESP mode for Silver. Swearing in the test stage. There's a very welcome addition to the options menu of P-06, the ability to turn off the hint rings. While David Will's, sorry if I mispronounced that, performance of the Duke is great, I don't need to know what button the homing attack is on every time I play the game. How does the Duke know all this shit about the characters anyway? Didn't we just get here? With the setting on though, there's a special hint ring that spawns in the test stage that, when you run into it... Chill bro, it's not that serious. Jump Dash Refresh. A lesser-known skill that applies to speedrunning, the Jump Dash Refresh is exclusive to P-06 in that Sonic and Shadow can perform a jump dash, use their air action, then use another jump dash. While not seeming like a huge game changer at first, with how expansive some of these levels can be, the extra distance you get from it is awesome. Plus, that second jump dash can also be used as a homing attack if you come into range of an enemy or object it can target. It works especially well with the Legacy type, and with Shadow is essential to score attacking. A very good addition to the game and something I hope to see in official ones should this ability return. Crisis City's Skybox. While Project 06 uses and updates many assets from retail, that doesn't mean the other games are safe from getting their assets pulled. It's pretty hard to tell, but Crisis City actually uses a modified version of the Skybox from Sonic Generations. Sneaky little way to get better looking stuff, Chaos. Hub World tease. Back in 2022, ChaosX posted this tweet showcasing the Castletown hub worlds supposedly in P-06. Since then, though, he's made other tweets stating that the hub worlds won't be featured in the fan project. Maybe we'll see it as some sort of Easter egg? Mods will probably take care of adding the hub worlds if anything post last release, but who knows? Shadow Dusty Desert Omega Skip. A speedrun skip in the Silver release version 1.0, Kariru found a way to clip Shadow out of bounds after the first checkpoint in Section 2. And it's been a long time since I've done it, so I'll leave it to past me to take this one. And I apologize for the cringe. It's going to be fixed, I promise you. So what happens is if you get good RNG on a big wave here in Dusty Desert, you can clip through this wall and go out of bounds. Now that we're clipped out of bounds, we're gonna spin dash and jump over here in order to stand on this platform. Then we are going to remain out of bounds. The sand here is just a little bit outside of the bounds of the level, so we can use it to get across this room. And at the very end here, we need to spin dash jump around the Omega trigger, and we are going to remain out of bounds. You can see I'm on the other side of this pillar. Then what we need to do is spin dash jump this way, and we need to land on this platform here. So we're going to use our spear to remain in the air. Platform goes back, land on the platform. Then what we're going to do is we're going to jump over this direction, land on this platform, and then I believe we just switch back to Shadow right here. That's how you completely skip Omega and Dusty Desert. Chaos Blast Clip. Another trick exclusive to an older version of the Silver release, the Chaos Blast Clip took advantage of Shadow's animation. When Shadow performs Chaos Blast on the ground, he normally rises up in the air to perform it, but in this version of the game, this rise up ignored collision. While there weren't too many uses for it, the major one was in Silver's aquatic base. You switch to Shadow right at the beginning normally to fight a bunch of enemies, so we can defeat those to level up to Chaos Blast, then homing attack the balls because in both Retail and P-06, you can jump dash into physics objects and get your homing attack back still, even though it technically wasn't a homing attack. Using this, you can get him to the top of the door frame at the start of the stage. Then, using a Chaos Blast, you clip through the ceiling, land on the door frame out of bounds, then set up a jump dash and a spin dash jump to get to a later part of the level that you'd normally be at with Silver, getting us to Section 2. Ah, the beauty of speedrunning a game still in its demo phases. More than 999 rings and lives. If you've watched speedruns of Project 06, you'll notice that the runner usually has 999 lives. That's a lie. While the UI goes up to 999, you could obtain more than that. Way more than that. Up to the integer limit of C#. That being 2,147,483,647 lives. Wow, cats ain't got nothing on hedgehogs. And this principle also applies to the ring count. In the last release, there'll be an option to disable lives altogether, but it's funny thinking about legitimately getting up to that number. Don't get any stream ideas, don't get any stream ideas. This is me from the future past, where I did the math, and if it took 10 seconds to get a life, it would take a measly 681 years if I did it constantly. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. The first P-06 YouTube video. While there have been many videos on Project 06 put onto YouTube, who has the honor of having the first one? While the answer may seem obvious that it'd be Chaos, it actually isn't. That honor goes to Sujit, who's a reputable Sonic modder in his own right, working on things like Unleashed Recompiled. He released a video showcasing Sonic's Wave Ocean Mach Speed section in P-06 just a couple months before Chaos started uploading on his own. Pretty cool. Silver's Uplift Smash. Even though he normally can't spin jump and dash around like the other main hogs can, Silver still has a wide breadth of abilities at his disposal, some being more useful than others. But there's one move that you most definitely didn't notice, or maybe did by accident. When uplifting an object, pressing the X button performs the Uplift Smash, where Silver will take the object he's riding and fling it away from him. It's basically useless in Project 06, though the Psycho Hog does a cool flip when he does it. In Retail though, the move didn't have an animation, and because of that, it opened the path to the now speedrun essential tech, the telethrow. But that's a whole nother topic for another video. Amy's invisibility. Remember how I said that in Demo 1.0, Amy actually had her invisibility TM from Retail still? Well, Chaos was actually going to keep it in her moveset early in development of the Silver release, but scrapped it because of how much more capable she had become as a character with her new moves. However, just to tease us speedrunners a little bit, he joined a call when we were practicing back in 2022 where he showcased some of the stuff he was working on. While one of those things was Blaze's fire power-up, the other was Amy's new invisibility. And luckily, Chaos actually found a clip to send me of what it would have looked like. Nothing super flashy, just a Retail animation with a little tarot card popping above her head before she disappeared. A novel idea that ended up being repurposed into her new idol animation. Thanks to Catalina for this one. Flame Core Speed Shoes. In the first Sonic release of the game, Flame Core Section 1 had a cool trick to skip the second combat plateau. With what seemed to be a slight error, there was actually a Speed Shoes capsule on top of the 3-spring below the lava waterfall. Using this, we could combine the purple gem to speed Sonic up the lava river, then jump over the bottomless pit all the way around the wall to our left, then clip through the one-sided collision to get to a later point in the stage. While this is a little overkill, I'd love to see the power-up return in this area, as it'd be really cool to dash up the lava river again with the Speed Shoes with all 3 hogs this time. Uninhibited mode was a last-minute addition. Now a staple of Shadow's moveset in Project 06, Uninhibited mode showed a different kind of super ability for the Faker and satisfied a lot of fans finally being able to play with it after seeing what it could do in the cutscene. However, this was not always the intention. Shadow originally wasn't going to have any S-rank reward, as the Rainbow Gem was an Easter egg being cut content for Sonic from retail that Chaos wanted to honor, but no such thing was planned for Radical Highway's son. Shortly before the Shadow release drop though, Chaos decided, yeah, let's give something to Shadow too. And now the Memory Shard Light is here to stay and pave the way to have a new form for Silver as well down the line. So glad he did it too, or else I wouldn't be here. Space Dolphin. Having played so much P-06 in my life and showcasing many different mods that ask different things of the player over just beating the stage quickly, I've found a few oddities in its current demo, one of which being this magic dolphin in the blue gem room of Sonic's aquatic base. If you stare at the ceiling long enough, you'll get a glimpse of this majestic beast clipping through the ceiling during its path. A harmless, funny little oversight that took me over 4 years of playing the game to find. Free mode. A very popular rumor of retail is that originally, when all the gold medals in the game were collected, there was planned to be a free mode where you were able to play any stage in the game with any character. But it's just that, a rumor, because as far as I know, free mode was never planned for the original game. As it's an extremely cool idea and concept, naturally, when Project 06 started making the rounds in 2019, there were requests of Chaos to add free mode to the game. It seemed he answered the call, as at the time he was still releasing short dev videos on his game, and the latest one showed free mode as part of the thumbnail. Sadly, it was just an April Fool's joke, so the idea of free mode remains just a rumor. While cool in concept, the amount of work it would take to create universal layouts of every stage, including Team Attack Amigo and the very hard stages, for every character is insane. Though, after the last release drops, I certainly wouldn't be upset if some dedicated folks took it upon themselves to give it a try. Until then, we have the Character Switcher mod by Beats to get a version of what free mode would be like. And that's the Sonic Project 06 Iceberg. This video didn't include absolutely everything about the project, so if there are some fun tidbits about the game you'd like to share, post them in the comments section below. Just make sure you know it for a fact before posting. I don't want to have to remove any comments saying that Chaos hasn't played retail because, spoiler alert, he played it in 2021 and has many times since then. Otherwise, it'll be fun to read. I don't know everything about the game, and the devs may not remember everything they put in it. I want to give a huge shout out to all those that supported the May 2025 subathon for making this video possible, and to these folks specifically who gifted 20+ subs to the September 2025 subathon. I do too many of these events, earning an Iceberg point dedicated to them. And finally, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.